So set up the workbench, MySQL workbench. Go to my connection. Click cancel. Oh, I need to turn on MAMP, sorry. All right. There's that. I have a WallDB already set up here because I stole it from Conley, I believe. It's the exact same one that's shown in the Flask. Let's reverse engineer it so we can look at what it looks like. Tools. No, it doesn't. As long as the names and stuff are in there, we're fine. So tools, server, database, reverse engineer. All right. Continue. Continue. We'll go with wall. And we'll do wall and see what that one is. Continue. Continue. Execute. Cool. Make sure this is the right one. We'll have to hunt around it for a second here. You never know what these database reverse engineer will do. Just come on. Oh, really? There they are. This looks like it's not the one we want. All right. Yeah. So this is somebody else's, also known as Alan's. So we're gonna go with the other one.
Someone else is also known as.
So we're just reverse engineer a different one. So we're gonna go after WallDB this time, which I believe is Conley's. Oops, continue. Which is, I think you just copied the one from the thing, right, Conley?
Oh, I did that from the wireframe?
Yeah. All right. So basically we have comments, we have messages, we have users. First name, last name, email, password, create, updated at, comment, not comments, only.
Yeah.
It has foreign keys, user ID, and messages ID. The messages have user's ID as a foreign key, and it has a message, create at, updated at, perfect. Cool. All right, so that's the database that we're going to use. We'll just leave this guy open. We can go back to my connection, turn wall on. So now if we do select star from users or something, it'll be referencing that wall. Whoa, that's not English. Cool. All right, so we've got one user. In that user, we've got somebody that has a password hash. Cool. All right, so that's a pretty fine and fantastic little wall. All right, so let's make a bunch of queries. So we know what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to do login and registration. We're going to have to do select all the wall messages and select all the wall comments. We're going to have to be able to delete some of those things. We're going to have to be able to, yeah, that's pretty much what we're going to have to do. All right, so for doing login, things we need to do, users, we need to be able to insert a user. So that's registration. Let's see if I can make this bigger. I know Spiros had some really fast way of making it bigger. Do you guys remember what he did?
Control Shift plus.
I don't think that works for.
Control scroll.
Command Shift plus.
Control.
I don't know. You have a scroll button on your laptop.
Probably not, huh?
Yeah. I'll just open it up in preferences. Fonts. Let's go with 25. Oh, and by the way, nobody should feel like they need to be here. Like, if you're bored, I am not offended at all if you just like walk out. So.
Oh, for us, for PC, it's just Control plus, so maybe it's just Command plus for you.
Control plus. Nope. Control plus. Option plus. Nope. No problem. All right. Well, let's pick it up now.
Oh, well.
This is so it's now legible. All right. All right. So close this one up. Close that up again. Save that. There. Cool. Good with that? All right. So for login and registration, we need to do select, let's just do star from users, where a unique field, in this case email, equals some string, mjhannon@gmail.com. Right. So that user doesn't exist, but the query works fine. All right. Why would we do it by a unique field? Well, we're going to have to go and retrieve somebody somehow, and we can't retrieve somebody by their password because that'd be strange. We can't retrieve them by their ID because that'd be impossible at this point because we don't know where they are. But we do know that they have one unique field, which is email. All right. So that's one thing that we're going to need for login and registration. So that's getting somebody when they log in. When we want to register somebody, what we want to do is we want to do insert into users. We want to pass in a bunch of things. First name, last name, email, password, created at, updated at, and then we want to pass them in a bunch of values. And those values are going to be a string of first name, a string of last name, a string of email, a string of password, and now and now. All right, let me just make that look a little bit better. Should be able to break it here. All right, it's a little bit better. It's not awesome, but at least that's our whole query there. SQL doesn't care about spaces. We can run that, and we should get somebody inserted. And now if we select all from users, which we never actually use this next query, select star from users, but we're going to use it as our test query. Great. There we go. So we got everything put in where we want it to be. All right. Cool. So that's basically the queries that we're going to need for login and registration. The queries to get stuff from comments and messages. So comments and messages, we're going to get different pieces, right? All right. So from messages, so select message.id or messages.id as MID. So basically what we're saying there is we're going to get the messages ID and we're just going to rename it as m_id. We're going to get the messages.message as mMessage. Let's just call this thing, I can just leave it. We'll just leave it as message. We're going to grab, what else do we need? Created at, messages.createdAt as mcat. The reason that we're doing these shorthand notations, A, created at's a lot of typing, but B, if we join stuff, multiple things have created at, multiple things have IDs. So we need to differentiate which ones they are. So the messages.id differentiates from, like, say, a comments.id, and the m_id renames the column that we're going to get stuff back as. All right.
First name, last name? Concat.
Not quite yet, but
Okay.
yes. So let's just stop there for now, and then from messages, and just be like, okay, so we're just going to get these things from messages to start with. Cool. All right, so we got a couple messages. And notice that the columns got renamed. So we got message ID is 23, message is blank, and one is some scribbling. A created at field here. Cool. That's not all we need from our messages. So let me just make this full screen so it's actually big enough. All right. All right. So as Jeff was saying, we also want to get other things. So there's our messages. So let's just actually make this as a new row. And we can actually say stuff from messages. What do we want from users?
Concatenated first name, last name.
And okay, so concat users dot first name users dot last name. And what do we want to pass as the parameter? And how do we pass the parameter?
As name. As full name.
Okay,
What name should
as message creator name.
or author.
Message author.
M author.
Author. Okay. Cool. All right, so let's change. That's fine. Awesome. So let's call this, instead of from users, let's change this from m authors. Sorry. A set of users who create messages. Reasonable? No?
Yes.
What else do we need from our users in terms of message authors? Do we need anything else? We just need their first name and last name, right?
Don't we need an author ID for messages?
What's that? Yeah, it's to link it. But we're still just gathering stuff at this point.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So we need to put a comma in here. Sorry.
No,
Well, because it's a new line, we still need to line break it.
no, that's not what I was saying.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think you need any other information from them.
Yeah, I think we're good there. All right. How about stuff from C authors? Do we want to do messages and group concat, or do we want to make two comments and then parse them out afterwards?
Like two separate.
I prefer two separate.
Okay, we'll just do it two separate. It's a little bit easier in my mind.
That big grouped up one. It's hard to deal with.
Is that all we need for messages then?
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
Oh, you gotta join them.
Cool. All right. So to join them, so we say left join. Whoops. As an author. Cool. Left join. So that's basically this left join says we're going to get all of the messages regardless. We don't care if there's authors to them or not, even though they will all have an author. Messages.
No.
Sorry. Users. And then on messages dot users underscore ID equals users dot ID.
So you're joining the message on users.
What's that?
So you're joining the message about the users.
Why is our concat giving us an error here?
because it should be up with the other stuff.
Oh, there's still a comma, so it should be okay.
Should it?
Because it doesn't care about line breaks.
No, it should be up before the messages, from messages. It should be because you're concatenating.
Oh, before this part.
Yes, correct.
Yes. That comma should be here. Yeah, thanks. I
Sorry.
was like,
That's what I was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
cancel, and then the other comma should be gone. Cancel. All right, perfect, thanks. I was like, looks like it should be fine. All right, cool. So now if we run that, hopefully what we'll see is something else reasonable. All right, great. So we need to put a space in here. How do we add a space to our concatenation?
Comma. And then space. Yeah. Comma.
Awesome. All right. So gets our messages. All right. Let's do. All right. So next thing we want to do gets our comments. All right. So what do we want to get from our comments? Select comments. What's that?
Comments ID.
CID. Okay. Comment. Comments.comment. As that's fine. Comment as comment.
Great. Why do you need the comments ID?
So we can delete it potentially.
Yeah. Okay.
So we need the messages, our comments.messages ID.
Don't forget my comments in my computer
I think the one I
Did you
Comments.
change
Yeah.
it?
yeah I don't know if I could change it, but I looked at it.
You have it right.
So, comment created at.
Comment created at
Comments.
as
Comments.
Comments.
Yes,
created,
thanks.
yeah.
as C at C at. Okay. Then we need users. So that's all the stuff from users, or sorry, from comments. Now we need to get some stuff from users. So users, and we'll just can get the same thing as here, basically.
Did you say from? Comments?
Not yet. So user's first name, last name as C author. Anything else? That looks reasonable to me. All right, and then from comments, left join users, and we can just basically copy this stuff except swap out
The messages and comments.
That's all right. I don't know if I actually have any comments in this one, but we're about to find out. Oh, look, there's some comments and messages. Cool. All right, so that looks pretty good. I made all the comments because that's what I do. Cool. So now we have to insert stuff into those things, right? All right, so insert into messages. What do we have to pass in there? We need to pass in a bunch of things. We need to pass in a message, of course. We need to pass in a user's ID, so we know who created that message. And then we need to just basically created at and updated at. And then that looks fine. Values of message, some number, which in this case we're going to pass in 2 because I know that user 2 exists.
Good old user 2.
Now and now. All right. Just run that to make sure it runs. Cool, we've got a nice little run there. Let's pass in like 75 and watch what happens. It's just going to throw an error. And the error that it's going to be is a foreign key constriction. So cannot update a child row. Sorry, I know this is really hard to read. But it basically says cannot add or update a child row, foreign key constraint fails. Basically what this says is we require the user ID. When we look at our table, you know how it turns red? Like there's those little red dots, like here and here and here. Those fields are required, and not only are they required, but they also need to exist in the associated table. So like this one from user's ID, there has to be a matching user's ID in here. This one with messages underscore ID, there has to be an associated message ID in here. So that's what that foreign key constraint failure stuff is. This becomes especially important when you try to delete stuff. So, yep. So you have to make sure that the message exists before you add a comment, which makes sense because you can't really comment on nothing. And similarly, a user would have to exist and be the one that's creating the message because ghosts don't really make cool messages. I mean, some of them do when they like write it on the mirror in blood or whatever. But
Whoa there. Who is this?
Taking a dark turn.
Yeah. But that's the reason that you have those there.
That's
And
what you do?
yes. So without those things, your database starts to break down. And some people, like to get around the foreign key constraints, like turn these things into just foreign keys because you can associate anything with anything else as long as they potentially match. So you could be like, oh, there's just a random number in here, 7, and that could match like user ID. Like you could do that association. It just doesn't make sense. And so some people basically say, oh, I don't want to put a foreign key in here. I just want to put a number in there, and they turn this thing as a foreign key off. And just don't do that. Bad practice. Then you have to do all your manual control of your database, and it's just ugly. So similarly, you can't really delete a message if it has comments without deleting the associated comments first. So since we are potentially going to do some deletions, let's just do those deletions real quick. Set them up. So this one works as long as we don't have the wrong foreign key. All right, delete from comments where our ID equals some number. That one's a pretty simple one. We could also delete from comments where messages ID equals some number. And that's also legitimate. So this will delete all of the comments where the messages ID equals 3. So that would be something that you might want to run before you delete all of your messages, for example. So like if you have a delete message, you'd actually want to run this delete before you delete the message. Delete from messages where ID equals 1. And let's say, pretend that we wanted to delete a user. If we wanted to delete a user, we would have to do something even crazier. So before we deleted a user, like delete from users where ID equals 6, we'd have to delete both the comments and the messages where users ID equals 6. So basically it would look like this, except, so these two things would have to occur first. That one, where users ID equals 6, and we'd also ghost cancel. So this would be like if somebody was on your blog and you booted them off because you didn't like them. You're like, get off my blog. Oh, sorry, that should be user still. Messages. So if you delete a user, you'd have to run those two things before you could actually delete the user, unless they hadn't posted anything, and then you could just delete the user. But
if they did post something, you got it.
yeah, exactly. So you might as well just try to do this. If there's nothing that matches this, it won't delete anything. All right, cool. So I think those are all of our queries. All right, I think that's probably a good place to stop round one. Let's just stop that.